Now, let's dive into today's story. The C-17 touched down at Dover Air Force Base just after midnight. Captain Edmund Boyer stepped onto the tarmac, his rucksack heavy across his shoulders, not from the weight of gear, but from the anticipation of home. 6 months in the Helmand province felt like 6 years. The dust, the heat, the constant vigilance, all of it evaporated the moment he thought about seeing his kids again. Jackson would be taller now, probably. Sophie might have lost another tooth. The hangar buzzed with reunions. Men and women in uniform disappeared into the arms of families who'd waited half a year for this moment. Edmund scanned the crowd, searching for familiar faces. His mother-in-law, maybe. A friend. Anyone. His phone buzzed. Finally. Don't come to the house. I've moved on. Your things are in storage. The kids will understand eventually. I've got the best lawyers. Edmund read it twice. Then a third time. The words didn't change. Around him, laughter and tears blended into white noise. A specialist next to him was kissing his wife like the world might end tomorrow. Edmund stood perfectly still, the phone screen casting blue light across his weathered face. He'd expected problems. Marriage to Christina had been strained before deployment arguments about money, about his career, about whether the military life was worth the sacrifice. But this was surgical, clean, premeditated. He typed back with steady fingers. Thank you for the clarity. Then he forwarded her text to one person, Colonel Joshua Underwood, JAG Corps, and his father. Edmund collected his duffel and walked toward the parking lot. No rush, no emotion visible on his face. A fellow captain called out to him, but Edmund just raised a hand in acknowledgement and kept moving. He'd learned patience in the desert, learned to wait for the right moment, to gather intelligence before acting. His truck was where he'd left it, dusty but functional. He drove to a motel off Route 13, paid cash for a week, and sat on the edge of the bed. The room smelled like industrial cleaner and old cigarettes. He didn't sleep. Instead, he opened his laptop and began making calls. 18 hours later, his phone lit up like a Christmas tree. 27 missed calls, most from a number he didn't recognize. When it rang again, he answered. Captain Boyer. A woman's voice, sharp and fraying at the edges. This is Lindsay Myers, attorney with Myers and Duke. We need to talk about what you've done. Edmund leaned back against the headboard. I forwarded a text message. That's what I did. You had no right to involve your father in a private marital matter. My client has rights. Your client, Edmund interrupted, his voice calm as still water, informed a deployed service member via text message that she'd abandoned their marriage and barred him from his own home. She mentioned lawyers before she mentioned our children. So I consulted with my attorney, who happens to be my father. Silence on the other end. You're representing Christina Sanford in a divorce. I understand that. But if you're calling to intimidate me, you should know I've spent the last 6 months dealing with people who actually want me dead. This conversation doesn't even crack my top 100 stressful moments this year. Mr. Boyer, captain, my client, is willing to discuss terms. I'll be in touch with my attorney regarding any discussions. Have a good day, Miss Myers. He hung up. The phone rang again immediately. This time, his father, Eddie. Joshua Underwood's voice carried the weight of 3 decades in military law. Tell me everything. Edmund did. Starting from the deployment, the gradual silence from Christina, the increasingly short emails, and finally, that text. Joshua listened without interruption, the way he'd taught Edmund to take battlefield reports, gather all intel before forming a strategy. She filed preliminary paperwork 3 weeks ago. Joshua said, I've got a contact at the county clerk's office. She's claiming abandonment and seeking full custody. Her lawyers already submitted a proposed settlement that would leave you with supervised visitation every other weekend. Edmund's jaw tightened. On what grounds? The abandonment claim is based on your deployment. They're painting you as someone who chose career over family. There's also mention of concerning behavior and potential PTSD, though no specifics. It's a framework for limiting your parental rights. I don't have PTSD. Doesn't matter. It's a narrative. And Christina's lawyer, Lindsay Myers, is good. Expensive, too. Which raises the question, where's the money coming from? Your wife worked part-time at a dental office. Myers and Duke starts at $400 an hour. Edmund hadn't thought of that. He'd been too focused on the betrayal to consider the logistics. You think someone's backing her? I think we need to find out. I've got a private investigator I trust. Former CID. He owes me a favor. Do it. Eddie, I need to ask. How are you? Really? Edmund looked at his hands. Steady. I'm fine, Dad. I'm not angry. That worries me more than if you were. I'm clear-headed. That's what matters. 6 months in Helmand teaches you something: emotion gets people killed. I'll feel whatever I need to feel after we've secured the objective. Joshua was quiet for a moment. Your mother would have said the same thing. All right. I'll start pulling threads. You sit tight. Don't contact Christina. Don't go to the house. Let me handle the initial positioning. After the call, Edmund opened his laptop and began documenting everything. Emails from Christina over the past 6 months, their banking records, the history of their marriage. He worked methodically, building a timeline. Patterns emerged. Her messages had grown distant in March. Right after Valentine's Day, money had moved between accounts, small amounts at first, then larger withdrawals in April. A knock at the door pulled him from his research. He checked the peephole. A man in his 50s, gray-suited, holding a folder. Captain Boyer? I'm Scott Buckley. Your father sent me. The private investigator didn't waste time. He spread photos across the motel room table, like playing cards. Christina entering a townhouse in Luz. Christina having lunch with a man Edmund didn't recognize. Christina, with Lindsay Myers at a coffee shop. Both women laughing. The man is Cameron Burton, Scott said. Real estate developer. Divorced 3 years ago. Worth about $8 million. Most of it tied up in properties along the coast. He's been seeing your wife since March. The townhouse is his. She's been staying there for the past month. Edmund studied the photos with clinical detachment. The kids? With your mother-in-law most days. Deb Walls. She picks them up from school, keeps them until evening. Sometimes overnight. Does Deb know about Burton? Hard to say. But she's been present at the townhouse on several occasions. Either she knows and approves, or she's willfully ignorant. Edmund nodded. What about the lawyer? What's her angle? Lindsay Myers is Burton's attorney on retainer. Has been for 5 years. Corporate stuff, mostly. Real estate law. She's doing the divorce as a favor to him, billing at a friendly rate, which means Burton's financing this whole thing. So he wants to marry Christina. Needs her free first. That'd be my guess. He's 49, never remarried after his divorce. No kids. Maybe he wants the ready-made family. Edmund's mind worked through the implications. This wasn't just a marriage falling apart. It was a calculated extraction. Burton had money, influence, and patience. Christina had access to Edmund's kids and his benefits. Together, they crafted a scenario where Edmund would look like the negligent father, the absent soldier, while Burton stepped into the role of stable provider. What else? Edmund asked. Scott hesitated. Burton has connections. State senator, couple of judges, the police chief. He's been developing property in Sussex County for 20 years. He's not someone you want as an enemy. Too late for that. Captain, I'm saying this as someone who's been around. This guy will bury you in legal fees, drag this out for years. He's got resources you don't. Edmund looked at Scott Buckley. Really looked at him. Mr. Buckley, I've commanded men in combat. I've made decisions where the wrong call meant people died. I've dealt with insurgents who wanted to kill me and politicians who wanted to use me. Cameron Burton is a real estate developer from Delaware. I'm not scared. Scott smiled despite himself. Your father said you'd say something like that. All right. What do you want me to find? Everything. Burton's finances, his business practices, his divorce. If he's as connected as you say, he's made enemies. Find them, and find out what Christina promised him. Nobody finances a divorce this aggressively without expecting something in return. 3 days later, Edmund sat in his father's office at Dover. Joshua had files spread across his desk, each one tagged and annotated in his precise handwriting. Burton's clean on paper, Joshua said, but his business partner isn't. Taylor Osborne. They co-own 6 properties together. Taylor's got a history, arrested twice for assault, once for DUI, charges dropped both times. Burton's money and lawyers made those disappear. That's not enough. No. But it's a start. Here's what's interesting. Burton's divorce 4 years ago was ugly. His ex-wife, Melinda McCoy, accused him of hiding assets, intimidation, and trying to alienate their weight. They didn't have kids. She accused him of intimidation and financial manipulation. She settled for less than she was entitled to because she was terrified of him. Edmund's attention sharpened. Where is she now? Rehoboth Beach. Runs a small gallery. Scott tracked her down. She's willing to talk. Off the record. Set it up. That evening, Edmund drove to Rehoboth. The gallery was a narrow space between a surf shop and a wine bar, filled with local art and the smell of sandalwood incense. Melinda McCoy was arranging paintings when he walked in. She looked up, saw his uniform, and immediately tensed. "I'm not here to cause trouble," Edmund said quietly. "I just need to understand who I'm dealing with." Melinda studied him. She was maybe 40, with tired eyes and careful movements. "You're the soldier. The one married to Cameron's new project." "Was married. She made that decision without me." "That sounds like Cameron. He doesn't wait for permission." Melinda locked the gallery door, flipped the sign to closed. "What do you want to know?" "Everything," she told him. About how charming Cameron had been at first. How he'd isolated her from friends, controlled their finances, monitored her phone. How, when she'd finally filed for divorce, he'd made her life hell, freezing accounts, spreading rumors, using his connections to make her unemployable. The legal battle had drained her savings. She'd settled just to survive. "He's doing the same thing to you," Melinda said. "He's using Christina to eliminate you. Once he has custody of your kids, he'll own her too. That's how he works. He collects people. He won't collect my children." "You sound confident." "I was confident too. Then I spent 2 years and $60,000 learning what power actually looks like." Edmund met her eyes. "I'm not you. No disrespect. None taken. But Captain, Cameron Burton has judges in his pocket. He has lawyers who will bury you in motions. He's patient, and he's ruthless. So am I." Melinda almost smiled. "Then maybe you've got a chance. What do you need from me?" "Testimony. When the time comes. About his pattern of behavior, his tactics. Would you be willing?" She considered this. "If it means stopping him from doing to someone else what he did to me? Yes. But you need to understand, he'll come after me for this. Not if I do this right." Edmund left the gallery with more than information. He left with understanding. Burton was a predator who used the system as a weapon, but predators had weaknesses. They got arrogant. They overextended. And Edmund had 6 months of combat experience, teaching him how to exploit weaknesses. The hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks out. Family court. Emergency custody determination. Christina's lawyer had pushed for it, arguing that Edmund's unstable presence required immediate intervention to protect the children. Joshua had countered with Edmund's spotless service record, his deployment orders, and the impropriety of penalizing a service member for fulfilling his duty. Edmund used those 2 weeks like a deployment countdown. He gathered intel, recruited assets, planned contingencies. Scott Buckley dug deeper into Burton's business dealings and found something interesting: a pattern of property acquisitions in Ocean View. All purchased through shell companies. All just before the county announced a major development initiative that would triple their value. It smelled like insider trading, or at least insider information. "Who's on the county council?" Edmund asked during a meeting at his father's office. Scott checked his notes. 5 members, most are long-timers. But the chairman is Buddy Armstrong. He's been in office 12 years, owns a construction company, and his son works for Burton. So Burton knew about the development before it was public. Looks that way. But proving it's another story. We'd need documents, communications, something concrete. Joshua leaned back in his chair. "Even if we prove it, that's a criminal matter. It doesn't directly help with custody." "No," Edmund said, "but it helps with leverage. Burton's entire strategy relies on being untouchable. If we can threaten that, we change the dynamic. You're talking about blackmail. I'm talking about negotiation. Burton's using his resources to take my kids. I'm just evening the odds." Joshua was quiet for a moment. "You know, I can't be part of anything illegal." "I know. Which is why you're going to leave the room for the next part of this conversation." His father looked at him with an expression. Edmund couldn't quite read, part concern, part pride, part resignation. "You're more like your mother every day." He stood, gathered his files. "I have a meeting. I'll be back in an hour. Whatever you discuss with Mr. Buckley is between you two." After Joshua left, Edmund turned to Scott. Can you get inside Burton's office? That's breaking and entering, Captain. That wasn't a no. Scott sighed. I know a guy. Former NSA. He specializes in digital acquisition. Very gray market. How gray? If he gets caught, you've never met him. If he doesn't, you'll have access to every email, every file, every communication Burton's ever had on his work computers. Arrange it. This could blow up in your face. So could doing nothing. Set it up. 3 days later, Edmund received an encrypted email with a download link. 40 gigabytes of data. Burton's entire digital life. Organized and searchable. Edmund spent 2 nights reading through it, cross-referencing, building a map of Burton's world. What he found was worse than insider trading. Burton's development company had systematically purchased properties in low-income areas, pushed out tenants through harassment and selective code enforcement, using his connections on the county council, then redeveloped the land for luxury condos. He displaced hundreds of families, destroyed communities, and made millions doing it. There were emails detailing the strategy, communications with Buddy Armstrong about timing inspections to force closures, text messages with Taylor Osborne discussing intimidation tactics, and a folder marked personal that contained something Edmund hadn't expected. Communications with Christina dating back 8 months. She'd been planning this longer than he'd thought. Burton had promised her financial security, a better life for the kids, and a partnership in his business. In return, she promised to handle the divorce quickly and ensure he had access to the children, which Burton apparently wanted not out of affection, but as a way to appear stable and family-oriented for an upcoming political campaign. He was planning to run for state senate, and the optics of a blended family would help. Edmund was reading through the emails when his phone rang. His mother-in-law. Edmund, it's Deb. We need to talk. They met at a diner in Milford, neutral ground. Deb Walls looked older than Edmund remembered, her face drawn with stress. She'd ordered coffee, but wasn't drinking it. I didn't know, she said before Edmund could speak. I swear to God, Edmund, I didn't know she was going to do it like that. The text message while you were deployed, that was cruel. But you knew about Burton. Deb's face crumpled. She told me she'd met someone. Said you two had grown apart, that you were never home. I tried to tell her to wait, to at least talk to you first. But she said you'd never agree to a divorce. She said Burton's lawyers could handle it. She's using Burton's money to take my kids, Deb. I know. I didn't understand what was happening until I saw the custody papers. Full custody, supervised visitation. Edmund, you're their father. You love those kids. And she's trying to erase me. Deb reached across the table, stopped just short of taking his hand. I talked to Jackson yesterday. He asked where you were. I told him you were back from deployment, and he asked why you weren't home. I didn't know what to say. Christina told him you were busy with work. Edmund's jaw tightened. She's rewriting the narrative, making me the absent father so Burton can be the present one. What can I do? I'll testify. I'll tell the court she planned this, that she's making a mistake. You'd do that? Testify against your own daughter? Deb's eyes filled with tears. Those are my grandchildren. And you're a good man, Edmund. You've always been good to them. Good to Christina, even when she made it hard. I won't let her destroy your family for a man with money. Edmund believed her. Deb had always been decent, caught between her daughter's ambition and her own sense of right and wrong. I need you to do something for me. Keep documentation of every time she's late picking up the kids, every time she leaves them with you overnight. Times, dates, everything. Can you do that? Yes. Edmund, I'm sorry. I should have called you, should have warned you. You're helping now. That's what matters. The hearing was in 3 days. Edmund prepared like he was planning a mission, identifying objectives, anticipating enemy moves, preparing contingencies. His objective wasn't just custody. It was dismantling Burton's entire strategy. The night before the hearing, he received an unexpected call. A woman's voice, hesitant. Captain Boyer, this is Kirsten Blackburn. I'm a reporter with the Delaware Coast Press. I've been investigating Cameron Burton for 2 years. I heard you might have information. Edmund sat up. How did you hear that? I have sources. Look, Burton's been operating with impunity for years. He's destroyed communities, bribed officials, and buried anyone who opposed him. If you have evidence, I can help. What's in it for you? The story, and maybe some justice. I grew up in one of the neighborhoods he demolished. My family lost their home. Edmund made a decision. Meet me tomorrow morning. 7 a.m., Dunkin' Donuts on Route 1. Come alone. I'll be there. Kirsten Blackburn was younger than Edmund expected, maybe 30, with sharp eyes and a recorder already running when he sat down. No recording, Edmund said. She turned it off. Fair enough. What do you have? Edmund slid a USB drive across the table. Everything. Burton's emails, his financial records, his communications with county officials, proof of insider trading, bribery, tenant harassment, and conspiracy. Enough to end his career and probably send him to prison. Kirsten's eyes widened. How did you get this? Does it matter? For verification and legal purposes, yes. If this was obtained illegally, I can't use it. It was obtained by a concerned citizen who had access to Burton's systems and decided the public interest outweighed confidentiality. That's not going to hold up in court. It's not for court, it's for publication. Once this is public, the authorities will have to investigate. They'll get subpoenas, search warrants, the legal access they need. You're just providing the roadmap. Kirsten studied him. You're using me to destroy him. I'm using you to expose him. There's a difference. And the timing? Your custody hearing is today. That's coincidence. She smiled despite herself. Sure it is. Captain, if I run this story, Burton will come after me with everything he has. He'll try. But you'll have public support, editorial backing, and the truth. That's more than most people who've fought him have had. Kirsten took the USB drive. I'll need a few days to verify everything, cross-reference sources. You have until tomorrow morning. I need this published before noon. That's impossible. You've been investigating him for 2 years. You know this material. You just need to confirm what you already suspected. I'm giving you the proof. The question is whether you have the courage to use it. Kirsten looked at the USB drive, then at Edmund. You're either very smart or very reckless. I'm very motivated. Those are my kids Burton's trying to take. All right, I'll make it happen. But Captain, if this backfires, we're both finished. Then, let's make sure it doesn't. The courtroom was smaller than Edmund expected. Family court in Georgetown, a single judge, 2 tables, and a handful of observers. Christina sat at the plaintiff's table with Lindsay Myers, her expression carefully neutral. She wouldn't look at Edmund. Burton wasn't there. Smart. Appearing in court would make his involvement too obvious. Judge Marion Riggs entered, and everyone stood. She was in her 60s, stern-faced, with a reputation for no-nonsense rulings. Edmund's father had briefed him. Riggs was fair, but traditional, valued stability over disruption, and had a soft spot for military service. This is an emergency hearing regarding temporary custody of Jackson and Sophie Boyer, Judge Riggs began. Miss Myers, you filed the motion. Proceed. Lindsay Myers stood, confident and polished. Your Honor, my client Christina Sanford Boyer has serious concerns about Captain Boyer's fitness for custody. He's recently returned from combat deployment, has not undergone proper reintegration, and exhibits concerning behavior. My client fears for the children's safety and emotional well-being. What concerning behavior? The judge asked. Aggressive communication, refusal to cooperate with reasonable custody arrangements, and a pattern of choosing military career over family obligations. Joshua stood. Your Honor, those are serious allegations without foundation. Captain Boyer served his country with distinction. He received notification of his wife's abandonment via text message while still deployed. His response has been measured and appropriate. As for choosing career over family, he was following military orders. Penalizing a service member for deployment violates federal law. Judge Riggs looked at Christina. Mrs. Boyer, do you have specific incidents of concerning behavior? Christina spoke for the first time, her voice soft and practiced. Your Honor, Edmund has always been intense. Since he returned, he's been cold, calculating. He won't communicate about the children, won't discuss reasonable arrangements. I'm worried about what he might do. Edmund kept his face neutral. She was building a narrative of instability, making him the threat. Captain Boyer, the judge said. How do you respond? Edmund stood. Your Honor, I haven't communicated with Mrs. Boyer because my attorney advised against it pending legal proceedings. I have no history of violence, no criminal record, and a spotless service record. My children are my priority. They always have been. Your Honor, Lindsay interjected. We have evidence that Captain Boyer has been surveilling my client, investigating her private life, and engaging in harassment. I hired a private investigator, Edmund said calmly, to understand why my wife abandoned our marriage and barred me from my home. That's not harassment, it's due diligence. And what did you discover? Judge Riggs asked. Joshua stood quickly. Your Honor, that ventures into discovery matters beyond the scope of this hearing. I'll allow it, Captain. Edmund made a split-second decision. I discovered my wife has been in a relationship with Cameron Burton for 8 months. That Mr. Burton is financing this divorce. That he wants custody of my children not out of concern for them, but as a political prop for his upcoming Senate campaign. The courtroom went silent. Christina's face drained of color. Lindsay Myers recovered quickly. Your Honor, these are outrageous accusations without proof. I have proof, Edmund said. Communications between Mrs. Boyer and Mr. Burton detailing their plans. Financial records showing his payments to your firm. Evidence of a coordinated campaign to remove me from my children's lives. Judge Riggs held up a hand. This is an emergency custody hearing, not a trial. However, Captain Boyer, if you have evidence of fraud or conspiracy affecting custody, I need to see it. Joshua approached the bench with a folder. Your Honor, we've prepared a summary with supporting documentation. We're also prepared to call witnesses who can speak to Mr. Burton's character and patterns of behavior. The judge reviewed the documents in silence. Edmund watched Christina. She was whispering urgently to Lindsay Myers, who looked increasingly uncomfortable. Miss Myers, Judge Riggs said finally, did you know your fees in this case were being paid by Cameron Burton? I was retained by Mr. Burton to represent Mrs. Boyer. Yes, that's not unusual. Did you disclose this potential conflict of interest to the court? I didn't see a conflict, Your Honor. Mr. Burton is not a party to this case. He appears to have a substantial interest in the outcome. Mrs. Boyer, were you aware that your relationship with Mr. Burton could affect custody determinations? Christina looked trapped. We're planning a future together, Your Honor. He cares about my children. They're Captain Boyer's children too. And you initiated divorce proceedings while he was deployed, preventing him from responding appropriately. That troubles me greatly. Your Honor, Lindsay said, my client has a right to end her marriage. She does, but not to unilaterally exclude a fit parent from his children's lives. Captain Boyer, I'm inclined to order shared temporary custody pending a full hearing. Do you have appropriate housing? I'm currently in a motel, Your Honor, but I can secure a residence within the week. See that you do. Miss Myers, I want a full financial disclosure from both parties, including all third-party funding. And I want Mr. Burton deposed regarding his role in this situation. Lindsay's face went rigid. Your Honor, Mr. Burton is not a party. Make him one. File the paperwork. This hearing is adjourned. Temporary shared custody, alternating weeks, beginning Monday. Captain Boyer will have the children first week. The gavel fell. Christina turned to Edmund as they exited the courtroom, her composed mask cracking. You son of a bitch. You had no right. I had every right. They're my kids. Cameron will destroy you. You don't know what he's capable of. Neither does he. Edmund walked away. Outside, his father was waiting. That went better than expected, Joshua said. But you know Burton won't take this lying down. I'm counting on it. Edmund checked his phone. A text from Kirsten Blackburn. Story runs in 30 minutes. Hope you're ready. The Delaware Coast Press published at noon. The headline was brutal. Developer Cameron Burton. A pattern of corruption, bribery, and exploitation. The article detailed everything. The insider trading, the tenant harassment, the bribes to county officials. Kirsten had cross-referenced Burton's emails with public records, creating an airtight narrative. She'd even interviewed former employees who corroborated the tenant intimidation tactics. By 1 p.m., the state attorney general had announced an investigation. By 3 p.m., Buddy Armstrong had resigned from the county council. By 5 p.m., Burton's business partner Taylor Osborne was in custody on assault charges apparently. When he'd heard about the investigation, he'd attacked a reporter from a rival paper. Edmund's phone rang constantly. News outlets wanting interviews. Lawyers from Burton's firm trying to negotiate. Even Christina called, crying, saying she'd made a mistake, that Burton had manipulated her. Edmund didn't answer. He was busy preparing for Monday, when he'd pick up Jackson and Sophie for the first time in 6 months. The apartment he'd rented was small but clean, 2 bedrooms in a quiet complex in Milford. He filled it with furniture, set up the kids' rooms with their favorite colors, stocked the kitchen with their preferred foods. He wanted everything perfect. Sunday evening, his father called. Burton's lawyer reached out. He wants to meet. No. Eddie, hear me out. He's offering to withdraw all involvement in the divorce, to make a financial settlement, everything. He wants this to go away. Tell him no. He tried to take my kids. There's no settlement for that. The Attorney General's case is strong. He'll likely face charges. His political career is over. You've won. Not yet. Monday morning, Edmund drove to Deb's house. Christina's car was in the driveway. He knocked, and Deb answered, her eyes red from crying. They're ready, she said quietly. Jackson and Sophie appeared in the doorway. Jackson was taller, just as Edmund had predicted. Sophie had lost 2 teeth. They stared at him for a moment. 6 months was an eternity for children. Then Sophie ran forward. Daddy. Edmund caught her, lifted her up, felt her small arms around his neck. Jackson followed, more reserved but smiling. Edmund hugged them both, felt something hard in his chest finally soften. I missed you guys so much, he said. We missed you too, Jackson said. Mom said you were busy, but Grandma said you were coming back. I'll always come back. Christina appeared behind the children, her face puffy and exhausted. Edmund, can we talk? Not now. Maybe not ever. But the kids need consistency, and they need both of us to be civil. Can you do that? She nodded, tears streaming. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Cameron, he promised things. And I thought, you thought wrong. But we'll figure out custody, visitation, all of it. For them. He looked down at Jackson and Sophie. Ready to go see your new rooms? They chattered excitedly as he drove them to the apartment. He bought Jackson a new baseball glove, Sophie a set of art supplies. They explored the apartment like it was an adventure, and Edmund watched them with the kind of relief that only comes after sustained fear. That evening, after the kids were asleep, he sat on the small balcony and checked his phone. A news alert. Cameron Burton had been arrested on federal corruption charges. Multiple counts, potential 20-year sentence. Taylor Osborne was cooperating with prosecutors in exchange for a reduced sentence. Buddy Armstrong was under investigation. The whole network was collapsing. His father called. You did it. We did it. Eddie, I need to ask. The emails, the financial records. How did you really get them? You told me you didn't want to know. I'm asking now. Let's just say Burton wasn't as secure as he thought. And sometimes, the right thing isn't the legal thing. Joshua was quiet for a long moment. Your mother would have said the same thing. She broke a few rules too, when it mattered. I learned from the best. What happens now? Now I raise my kids. The rest, Burton's trial, Christina's regrets, all of it, that's just noise. I got what I came for. 6 weeks later, Edmund stood in family court again. This time, the hearing wasn't rushed. Judge Riggs had reviewed all evidence, heard testimony from both sides, and interviewed the children in chambers. Christina's new lawyer, she'd fired Lindsay Myers after Burton's arrest, had negotiated a reasonable custody arrangement. Joint legal custody, primary physical custody to Edmund, with Christina getting alternating weekends and holidays. She'd have to complete parenting classes and counseling. Burton was forbidden from contact with the children as a condition of his bail. The judge granted the arrangement. Christina signed without argument. She looked broken, thinner, her confidence shattered. Edmund almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Outside the courthouse, Deb was waiting with the kids. Jackson and Sophie ran to Edmund, and he caught them both. Can we get ice cream? Sophie asked. Absolutely. Double scoops. Deb hugged him. Thank you for being gracious with Christina. She doesn't deserve it, but the kids need to see you both being adults. I'm not doing it for her. I'm doing it for them. As they walked to his truck, Jackson looked up. Dad, are you staying home now? No more deployments? Edmund had been wrestling with that question. He loved the military, loved serving, but he'd also nearly lost everything because of it. I'm putting in for a stateside assignment, he said. Something that keeps me close. You guys are my mission now. Sophie beamed. Jackson nodded seriously, like he understood. At the ice cream shop, Edmund watched his kids laugh over their cones. Watched them be children again, unburdened by adult mistakes. He thought about Burton, sitting in a cell awaiting trial. About Christina, rebuilding a life she'd destroyed. About all the moving pieces that had brought him to this moment. His phone buzzed. A message from Kirsten Blackburn. Burton's business empire is fully collapsed. 16 properties in foreclosure. 3 lawsuits. Partner turning state's evidence. You helped bring down a corrupt system. Proud to have been part of it. Edmund typed back. You did the real work. I just provided the ammunition. Still, hell of a shot. How are the kids? He looked up at Jackson and Sophie, their faces sticky with ice cream, their laughter filling the small shop. They're perfect. That's all that matters. He put the phone away. The future would bring challenges co-parenting with Christina, helping the kids process the divorce, building a new normal. But Edmund had learned something in 6 months of deployment. You survive by focusing on the next objective, the next mission, the next moment. Right now, his kids were happy. Burton was finished. Christina had learned a hard lesson about consequences. Edmund had won, not through violence or rage, but through patience, strategy, and an unwillingness to be broken. Some victories were earned in firefights. Others were earned in courtrooms and newsrooms. Edmund had fought both kinds of battles, and he was finally home.
This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.